Hello and welcome to Caribbean Vibrations TV's #1 Caribbean show. I'm your host and guide, Alan, and today we're coming to you from beautiful Montego Bay, Jamaica, where we're attending the 2018 Cannabis Conference. Here's what's coming up on today's episode. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations, and today's show is all about the booming cannabis industry in Jamaica. We speak with Gibbs of Zimmer & Co., Wayne Issacs of Green Stripe Naturals, Money of NDICA, and Anthony Bailey of Herbs. But first up, we speak with Steven Rivierie about the effects of the cannabis industry on local Jamaican farmers right now in Caribbean Vibrations. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, coming to you from Cannex 2018. And we're here with Steve from the Hanover Ganja Farmers Cooperative. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm really enjoying the Cannex vibes.
All right, me too. I'm meeting some really great people. Now, I met some people like yourself who are farmers. Now, when we're seeing this crazy cannabis revolution, all these things happening, and these big companies making all these money, we look to Jamaica as a place that we know ganja's from there. We know the best ganja comes from there. And people like you farm it. But what are some of the obstacles local farmers are facing right now in this whole cannabis revolution?
As small farmers, what Jamaica has built its ganja industry on is medical cannabis. Okay, fine. Medical cannabis has a certain set of standards and regulation which have to be met, of course, to protect the patient because it's medicine you're selling. So therefore, the formula or the type of ganja, the type of grow operation is generally greenhouse, right? Which is expensive, okay? The inputs faced by small farmers. Banks don't want to lend money because they're reluctant. Cannabis is a new field for the banks. They have no track record, no experience. They have questions and problems with correspondent banking. How are they going to bank large amounts of cash? Who is watching them? Where's the cash coming from? Who's laundering money? All these kind of questions. So therefore, it's an industry which requires a lot of cash, a lot of investment, a lot of money to get the infrastructure in place to be able to run a proper grow operation. You need your water. Your water has to be pure and clean. Whether you're growing field grown, which there's also a room in the marketplace for that, in direct sunlight, because you mentioned Jamaica in terms of ganja. Flavor and taste is what Jamaica excels in. Now, other countries through technology and research have moved ahead of us in those aspects of cannabis. Some Jamaican institutions and researchers are doing great work, like Dr. Lowe. However, we have catching up to do. So the real crunch faced by the small farmer is how do we fit into this industry? How do we fit into this marketplace? And along the whole ganja journey, since 2015 when cannabis was decriminalized, the government has never really approached the small farmers. They held some workshops, some town hall meetings, but it wasn't a dialogue. It wasn't a give and take. What do you think farmers would be best for the industry? What is your knowledge? Because the typical traditional farmer knows what strains work here. And he's been doing things traditionally by a traditional method because of experience. 20 years of farming the same seasonal conditions, different strains, what works in Jamaica, what doesn't. What do you use to get rid of pests, fungus, etc., without using chemical and expensive inputs, right? So access to capital, of course. How do we fit into the whole ganja industry in Jamaica? And we realized 3-4 years ago in Hanover, which is a rural part of Jamaica with quite a few small traditional farmers and good ganja, that if we just pushed our necks out individually, it would be very difficult. So we came together, we formed a cooperative in 2016, but now we find we have another stumbling block, which is the bureaucracy involved. And earlier I was in the main discussion hearing, be patient, take time, okay, be patient. We don't want to rush the thing. We want to do it properly. Fine, no problem. But what jurisdiction in the world takes 1 year and 3 months to process an application for a 1-acre cultivation site? Come on. You know, people lose patience. Farmers become frustrated. And meanwhile, the underground market continues to flourish. You know, And those are the people who should have been brought into the picture, brought into the industry from day one. Not just the man farming, but the little corner man selling what we call stickweed, a small amount of ganja for personal use. Bring them in and say, look, what do you think? How can we regulate this thing? How can we make a win-win situation for everyone, for the government, for the consumer, and for the farmer? We know that doctors and the government don't want people getting sick from ganja. Fine, great point, very valid and important, situation, right? So let's dialogue, let's work together. Let's not have a person talking to us, telling us what we have to do. Why don't you ask us, give and take, what we suggest? How can we work together to form a better ganja industry in Jamaica?
One final question is that, what advice would you give to someone who's sitting down or watching you and they might have land in Jamaica? Like my father gifted it to me and they want to come down and farm. Like, should they get in touch with their co-op? Like, how do you think they can start the process? Because you're going through it right now. What advice can you give them?
We have consultants here in Jamaica who can assist. If you have land, right? If you have funds which you'd like to invest, no problem. You can also contact our cooperative, right? Because we're willing to work partnerships. That's what this is all about. A cooperative by nature is a partnership, is a unity of small people working together. So we're always open to partnerships and working together with other persons from Canada, from US, from Jamaica.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Steve.
We thank you for the opportunity to expose our work, to highlight our program and our co-op in Jamaica. Thanks again. Blessed love.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Caribbean TV.
You're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, and we're here at Canex 2018 with Tashira Gibbs from Zimmer & Co. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Excited.
I'm excited too because she's only interviewing with me. But we found it intriguing. We were speaking to one of the people you work with about what Zimmer & Co. does, and a lot of people don't understand that products down here, just like everywhere else, is regulations. But how do you help the person who is trying to get in the cannabis industry?
Well, what's important is efficacy and safety. It's medicinal. It's a medicinal industry we have in Jamaica. And what you want to make sure is that every single batch that comes off the production line has the same safety standards that the one before, the one after. And so this area of the medicinal cannabis industry is regulated by the Ministry of Health. And so all products must go through registration process through the Ministry of Health. So that's a process, we understood how it was done because of a presentation last year at Canex. So we took that route, and so we implore others who want to get involved to also take that route. The applications are available online. Make your applications to the Ministry of Health and go through that process.
So what markets are you guys currently in, and where are you looking to expand?
Well, we want to be everywhere. We're Zimmer Global, our website. We're Zimmer & Co in Jamaica, but we're Zimmer Global. We want to be everywhere. So earlier this year, maybe 2 months ago, we had a strategic partnership with LGC Capital through Global Can Labs in Jamaica, where we got $1 million invested in our company. So we're using that money to add to our product line and to expand to new markets. Currently, we have 50 products approved for distribution in Jamaica. We're also in Trinidad and in Bermuda, and we are in advanced talks in 5 other countries. We're currently focusing on hemp-based CBD because that's legal almost everywhere. So we're able to enter new markets. Through the strategic partnership from our investor, though, we're now looking at Africa and Eastern Europe. So we're in advanced talks in those areas as well.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to tell our Caribbean Vibration viewers about cannabis and the growing industry in Jamaica?
Yes, I'd say, move away from the stigma associated with the industry. I spent 25 years in corporate. I did 20 years in airline leadership. I did another 5 as a director at our utility company, and I transitioned into the medicinal cannabis space, because it is an opportunity to grow our economy, but equally it's also an opportunity to bring a well-needed medicine to people across the entire world. I'm seeing the impact of the medicines we have on the patients that are using it, and I think it's important that we share that with everybody. And so if you have an interest in the business, business, start doing your homework, start learning, start attending the conferences, but jump. Take that leap and jump and just do it. Align yourself with the right partners, make the right relationships, and just make sure you're doing it right and being compliant with the regulations of the countries within which you're operating.
Thank you so much for your time, sure.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, coming to you from Cannex 2018, and we're here with the CEO of Green Stripe Naturals, Mr. Wayne Issacs. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure. We've been meeting so many interesting people from our community. You being a proud Jamaican Canadian, tell us about your business, Green Stripe Naturals.
Well, Green Stripe Naturals is really a business that's designed to really bring forth the power, the effectiveness, and the national reputation or international reputation of cannabis that's grown in Jamaica. So what we did was, myself as a Jamaican Canadian, I looked at the cannabis industry, saw a great deal of activity in the cannabis industry, but what I wasn't seeing in Canada, was representation for Jamaican cannabis. So on that basis, I put together the company, came down to Jamaica, and started looking at opportunities in Jamaica to start really bringing Jamaican cannabis to the forefront in the international markets. But for the moment, we're concentrating strictly on just medicinal cannabis.
Now, you're here with me in Jamaica, and you're seeing a lot of things. You're meeting a lot of different people. Where do you see the cannabis industry? What will it look like in the future for locals living in Jamaica?
I think the cannabis industry in Jamaica is going to be huge, and this is part of the reason why I'm here. I think, for local Jamaicans, this is an opportunity to start participating in a business or in an industry that has, I guess historically had a great deal of stigma to it, And although Jamaica is the only country that I know that has a national brand as far as cannabis is concerned, there aren't any real wealth that has been made legally from cannabis out of Jamaica. So I think the opportunity here for every Jamaican to be able to participate in this is a tremendous opportunity going forward. There's a great deal of, as we say, natural strains of cannabis here that's well known. And on the heels of that, there's also a great number of expertise here, that doesn't exist anywhere in the world, okay? Traditionally and culturally, cannabis has been well accepted and understood in Jamaican culture, and that's something that's going to translate into superior cannabis experience when the industry itself matures out of Jamaica.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to tell our Caribbean Vibration viewers about cannabis?
Well, as we all know, cannabis, again, is a plant that's been around for hundreds of years. It's been, strongly stigmatized because of the illegality of recreational cannabis. Now cannabis is developing in the forefront in the medicinal markets, as most Jamaicans have known about for years and years and generations, over generations. So now that is actually becoming very well recognized in the international markets, and I think cannabis itself in general, is going to be the springboard, especially for countries like Jamaica, who has these superior growing conditions, superior experience, and superior cannabis strains to be able to actually create a great deal of wealth out of this particular plant.
Thank you so much for your time, Wayne.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations.
Very cool and refreshing, right from the spring, coming from on the way up in the mountains. The rocks and everything is the filter, natural filter. And because the water keeps running, you can't keep any bacteria or anything. So it's a running stream.
Caribbean Vibrations TV is an award-winning entertainment and lifestyle series dedicated to the culture of the international Caribbean community. Every week we take our viewers on a journey that captures the energy and influence of the Caribbean diaspora on a global scale. Our exclusive and unique content brings viewers the best in Caribbean travel, festivals, music, business, food, fashion, and cultural treasures globally. Caribbean Vibrations TV, all things Caribbean. You are watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, and we're here at the 2018 edition of the Cannabis Conference, and we're here with Miss Bo Money. How are you doing today?
Great, I'm wonderful, and thank you for interviewing.
You know what, I was in the session that you were talking with the women in cannabis, which I really appreciate because, you know, right now it's a male-dominated society, but there was a lot of women saying a lot of interesting things. And for me, what really brought me to want to speak to you is INDICA. Tell us about your organization.
INDICA is the National Diversity and Inclusion Cannabis Alliance. I created INDICA last year because what I found was that there was not a lot of people that looked like me in this cannabis industry, which, you know, is unacceptable. Because with the war on drugs, it put a lot of our black and brown people in prison, and a lot of them are still in prison. And this is why we need to decriminalize, and we need to make sure that our people are able to create generational wealth, because this is what this industry is about to bring us. So with INDICA, we basically work with social equity. And in Los Angeles, Oakland, Sacramento, and San Francisco, we have social equity programs. So they're very unique because they're not around the country, and they need to be. So that's what our organization does is we go around the nation to work with the different states on creating and shaping a social equity program for them.
Now, you were telling me about the social equity program they have in Los Angeles. Explain that to us.
The social equity program was designed to bring underground cultivators and also underground dealers to the legal market. So what it is that for every one general licensed retail, that would be dispensaries, there has to be 2 issued to qualified social equity applicants. And what qualifies them would be low income, cannabis conviction, and also coming from a zip code that was impacted by the war on drugs. And then we have a second tier that you don't have to have a cannabis conviction, but you do have to be low income, and you have to come from a zip code that was impacted by the war on drugs. Now with the cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution, that's a 1-to-1. So for every one general license issued, there has to be 1 issued to, again, a social equity applicant.
Now, we're here in Canada, and Canada is decriminalizing everything. Will you guys be coming up to Canada? Are you working with companies in Canada now?
We are, and unfortunately, you know, they're not allowing people that work in cannabis in Canada to come to the U.S., which is just ridiculous. I mean, I just don't understand that, because it's really about globally working together. You know, all of us should be working together for the greater good, you know, of bringing this plant to the forefront. Because we'd like to bring more black farmers into the cannabis space and the hemp space, because ultimately, again, you know, they're going to be left out. And so, and you know, and that's another issue as well, is because they are not allowing people that have convictions to work in the hemp space, which is ridiculous, because there's no psychoactive parts of hemp. You know, so again, those are the things that we have to work to change. I have the first black hemp farm in Wisconsin. So it's going to be a social equity hemp farm. So my partners actually have owned the land. They are black farmers that have owned this land over 60 years. So now we're able to put it to use and, you know, and create jobs and ownership for people of color.
Well, I love your whole story. We're going to definitely stay in touch with you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, coming to you from South Lamar, Jamaica. And we're here with the CEO of Herbs, Anthony Bailey. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having us here, because, I mean, right now we're doing all this information about cannabis, and meeting someone like yourself who's at the forefront of this industry, I really appreciate your time. Now, the first question I had for you is, what's the concept behind Herbs?
So Herbs, we are trying to be a premium brand here in Jamaica. What we want to establish ourselves is to be, you know, like the Appletons, the Red Stripes of Jamaica, like a household name, Grace, Kennedy, that kind of stuff, Lasco, all of that. So Herbs actually stands for something deeper than what Herbs actually is up front. It actually stands for Health, Education, and Research of Botanical Sciences. So that's exactly the full name behind Herbs, and it's just abbreviation.
That's a very cool acronym. You guys really thought about that. And speaking of that, you guys are going to be doing a bunch of different things. Tell us right now what the vision is, where we're at.
So here is going to be our flagship location. We're on site. You see we have our jerk center. We have our our first herb house is going to be back here. We're going to have set some sand up here, have some soccer fields, and eventually an entertainment stage. In the back, in the distance, you can kind of see where our grow area is going to be. So everything is going to happen on site here in Savlamore and Westmoreland. So that's everything that you see here.
What are some of the things you guys would be doing different things? So, for example, for the regular person, they don't realize there's different licenses in Jamaica. Yep. So you can do different things. So what are some of the things you'll be doing right here at this one spot?
Well, we've applied for all 7 licenses across the board, but right here on this location, the only thing we won't be doing is research and development, which we're in process right now of sending a proposal to the Savlamore Hospital to do some R&D there on site and also give them some critically needed bed space that they need there. So on the site right here, we'll have our cultivation, our processing, our herb house, and our transportation license will be operating in and out of here, so moving our product from point A to point B.
Now, how do you feel this emerging cannabis industry is going to help the local Jamaican?
Well, for the local Jamaicans, I gotta tell you what I'm doing. Like, majority of my contractors are all Jamaicans. Like the guys who set up our fence, all the guys building, anybody cutting the lawn or doing anything around here, even to the upper level kind of engineers, architects, structural engineers, civil engineers. I've tried to keep as many Jamaicans into the project as we can because my goal is to create jobs here in Jamaica and eventually, hopefully, the cannabis industry can surpass the tourism industry here in Jamaica. So that's kind of my vision.
And what's your connection to Jamaica?
My father is Jamaican. My mother's from St. Vincent, so my father has been bringing me back to Jamaica my whole life. I've been coming back. I lived here until I was almost 4, so I'm deeply rooted in Jamaica. And I come back here maybe 2-3 times a year, and then now I'm here probably 8-7 months out of the year. So I love Jamaica. It's like my second home. Is
there anything else you'd like to tell our Caribbean Vibrations viewers?
Everybody in the Caribbean, I want you guys to come together and unite, and let's take cannabis by force. I think that all of the Caribbean islands, we can be a good low-cost producer, and there's kind of a vibe and something that we have in the Caribbean that strongly aligns with the cannabis community. So I think that eliminating the stigma and educating ourselves to it is very, very important, and the industry's moving so rapidly that if we, turn a blind eye to it, it will get overpassed and overlooked. So all of the heads of CARICOM, pay attention to the cannabis industry.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations. I hope you all enjoyed this edition of Caribbean Vibrations TV, coming to you from Montego Bay, Jamaica. Don't forget to check us out on social media at CaribVibe or check out our website, CaribbeanVibrationsTV.com. I'm your guide Alan, and we'll see you next time on Caribbean Vibrations.
This love is real. Girl, you possess the charm that keep me warm.